Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Finally using the new Ranger Tim Holtz alcohol pearls alcohol ink. Showed these in a haul video a while ago. Finally sat down, swatched them, played with them a little bit, and was like, ooh, these are fun. So if you are at all familiar with the Ranger alcohol inks, these new pearls are slightly different. You can see here I'm showing they have a shimmer powder in the mixture, which settles to the bottom. That's just standard. So with these, you need to shake them up, like shake them really, really, really well. There'll be a little ball bearing inside it, and you shake it until you don't see that powder settled in the bottom. So I just shake the ever-living daylights out of it, and then they're good to go. So, and you also, depending on how long you're working and whatnot, shake them during use as well. You know, put the lid back on, shake it up really good, because that's just the nature of that kind of, you know, pigmenty shimmer powder. It's just going to settle. So I also pulled out my pearl mixative, which I will say that's redundant with these. You don't need it. But I was in my head, I was thinking, it's like, oh, that might show up like, you know, almost as a white shimmer, but it doesn't. Yeah, so you don't need it for this, but I'm talking about it because I did use it, so I'm not just going to show what I did. So I have some YUPO paper here. You want, YUPO is one of the best to work with alcohol inks because YUPO paper isn't actually paper, it's a form of plastic. So it lets the alcohol inks kind of sit on top and move around and all that fun stuff. And then I also have some blending solution, that's the clear stuff. I'm just squeezing on and I'm just playing. I'm just adding the inks, adding the blending solution, and kind of letting them do their thing. I move them around a little bit. I like to use my marker spritzer tool that's meant for markers, but it blows air. That works really well. You can use a straw. I don't like doing that at all. Not doing it. So I like to use my marker spritzer. You can also get those little units that are meant to clean the lenses of cameras and whatnot. Same concept. So it's just something to help kind of move things around. Here I'm adding the pearl mixative, so you can kind of see it, like it did kind of like show up white when I added the blending solution. But again, like for the shimmer factor of it, you don't need it with these because the inks themselves are shimmery. So next time I'm going to try a different one of the mixatives, like one of the metallics, because that'll give it a different effect. But I just kind of kept going back and forth. That's the beauty of alcohol inks, is you can kind of keep playing with them and keep adding to it and all that fun stuff. So I was really just, you know, experimenting, but made sure to turn my camera on while I did this. And this was just a scrap of, well, like large scrap of YUPO paper, because the packs I get are the Ranger ones, so they're 5x7. But I cut out a chunk of it to use for the swatches and whatnot. And then I was like, ooh, I'm not going to like waste this, of course. So that's what I did with the remaining piece of it. I was like, I don't want to leave it. It needs ink too. So I kind of kept adding everything, you know, in that little bit of rainbow order. Just coating this entire piece, moving things around with the little spritzer tool just to kind of, you know, push those inks around and let them like blend and do their things. And I still added that pearl mixative just because I still kind of like how it, you know, pushes away the color. But again, if you're just wanting that kind of more shimmery effect, the alcohol pearls will do it. But if you have just regular alcohol inks, you can get the pearl mixative. But again, it's different little effects, like that sort of a thing. So to clean my work surface, I was working on a glass mat, my, you know, Tonic Tim Holtz one, and I will link to everything like I always do. But working on a glass mat is really nice because all I took is just hand sanitizer, because it has alcohol in it, and a baby wipe, and it wipes up all of that dried up alcohol ink on my little work surface here. So it's just easy to clean up and to wipe. So I thought also while I was at it, I would experiment a little bit more with adding some foil to this background. This is something that definitely takes practice. The more you get used to alcohol inks and like your climate and the dry time and whatnot, because you want things to be tacky. You don't want it to be wet because it won't do anything. It'll literally just transfer wet alcohol ink to the back of the foil. So some of these areas it worked perfect. You know, it picked up little bits of foil like I wanted. I had kind of that big center area where the inks, you can see that kind of squiggly line where the ink is really dark. That area was way too wet. It was too wet. It wasn't doing anything. So again, you literally have to just keep playing with it until you find that sweet spot when you know that, you know, the certain areas are going to be tacky and they'll pick up the alcohol ink. But the nice thing with foil is you get tons in the pack, and the sheet, even though some of the back ends up getting stained with alcohol ink, I don't care. I'll use it on other projects. It doesn't bother me at all. So I was able to get, you know, a bit of it transferred, and that gave me the effect I wanted, that nice, like, silver, like, reflective kind of quality. It just gave it that little extra something. So I kept working with it. And this is Silver Star Deco foil, by the way. And again, it'll be linked with everything else. So once I was done playing around with this, I was done. Like, everything's dry now. I've got some foil. And I'm going to turn on the flashlight on my phone to kind of try and show the shimmer of this. It's a lot more subtle than I expected it to be, and yet really, really pretty. Like, it just has this really nice shimmer. So they're a lot of fun. I'm really glad I bought all of the alcohol pearls. There's a set of 12 you can get now. So I set that aside just to make sure, let it really completely fully dry. And I die cut some white Simon's 120 pound white cardstock with a basic rectangle die, and then I pulled out the Clouds for Days stencil. And I'm just masking off those inner cloud shapes because I don't want to pick that up accidentally with the ink, and I'm just going to use my medium Picket Fence blender brush and some Simon Malibu ink, and I'm going to create a little background here. So I'm just going to pick up the ink with the brush and start brushing it over my stencil to create a fun little cloud background. And I'm just going to keep rotating this stencil to get, you know, the different little bumps and whatnot of these clouds. And I'm just going to work from top to bottom and sped this up in editing, of course. This still didn't take very long. This took like a couple minutes. But yeah, I just kept picking up the ink with the blending brush and then starting on the stencil and then just like pulling the color off of that and then rotating, move down, rotating, move down, rotating, move down until I filled up almost this entire piece with this fun little like cloudy background. So once I'd done that, I had die cut some green apple cardstock with the one of the Grassy Edges wafer dies because I was playing with that alcohol ink background, and then I had this rough idea in my head, and I was like, I just got my hands on the Simon Nested Egg wafer dies. They showed up in a package last week, something like that. So I was like, ooh, those would look really fun as Easter eggs. So I created my little scene, and then I pulled those dies out. I had people asking about them. They showed up after the actual release, so that's why I didn't have them in my release and review video. But the largest ones are actually quite big. But I used the 3 smallest ones to die cut that alcohol ink background. So I have all these fun little Easter eggs. So I am going to use those for my scene. And then for my sentiment, I'm running some more of that 120 pound cardstock through my little Xyron X sticker maker. So I have 3 little pieces of cardstock that are going to have that adhesive on the back of them. And I'm going to die cut them with the Bunny Kisses wafer die, but I only wanted the bottom portion, so I just used smaller pieces of cardstock. I just wanted the Easter wishes words from this wafer die. So I die cut those 3 pieces with that wafer die, and then I'm just going to stack these together. So peel off the backing and then stack all 3 layers together so I get that depth and dimension that I just have to have when I have die cut sentiments. So peel off the backing, stack them all together. Once I have all of these stacked, I'm going to use my little craft pick to use the little dots of the eye. Generally, I use like a craft pick with that because I do get asked about that. It's like, how do you stack such a tiny little piece? My reverse tweezers work really well too. I love using those, but I find the craft pick works just perfectly because it'll, you know, it's narrow enough that it will pick up the dot to the eye, but it's not too big that it's sticking to the whole thing. So it's easy to just kind of slip it off of there. Hopefully that makes sense. I like to slip it off with like the end of my finger. So stack that all together. And then to start adhering my little elements here, I'm just going to use craft tacky glue. And I'll start with the grass pieces and I'm going to adhere those down. And then I started fiddling and figuring out like how I wanted to put the eggs. I originally was only going to use a couple, but then I was like, well, I have them. I have so many. Can't not use them all because they're all, you know, beautiful and unique and fun. So I just packed them in, you know, didn't hide them very well, you know, among the grass and all, but whatever. I just kind of fiddled around, and once I was kind of happy with the rough idea of my layout here, I just used more of that craft tacky glue, scribble a little bit on the back of these, and then adhere them into place onto my little card front here. So once I have all of those done, I'm going to adhere the die cut sentiment, and same thing, just peel it off from the backing, lay it out onto my little card front panel, and then press it down to actually like fully adhere everything. And I had used the, I think, third largest this time. Yeah, the third largest basic rectangle wafer die, so that I could leave the eggs kind of hanging over the edge, but it's smaller than an A2 card front. So got everything adhered into place, and then my card base is more 120 pound cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. So it's an A2 top folding card. And I decided to pop that card front onto the card base with Simon's Big Mama foam tape, because it gives it that little extra bit of dimension that I love. So I like to use my Tim Holtz snips to cut this foam tape, because it is a finicky foam tape. It doesn't tear easily. And then I like to use just my regular little cutter bee scissors to remove that backing. So I have a system, it works. And now I'm almost running out of that entire roll. I'm gonna have to get another roll of this. I think I've had this roll for like, goodness, well over 2 years. 3 years? 3 years? Yeah, I think it's been like 3 years since I got that. Anyway, I decided to keep the inside simple. No stamping, no nothing. I just adhered the last few eggs I had made and die cut. And that's going to finish off this card. So I'm gonna like use my flashlight again so you guys can kind of get an idea of the shimmer, because it's just fun. And as always, I'll have a link to my blog post in the description box below the video. I'll also have a supply list with links to all the supplies used. I'll have links in the upper right corner to other videos I've done on alcohol inks and all the random little tips and disclaimers and all that fun stuff. So you can check that out if you are interested. Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.